Howdy, all you delicious people. I'm here today to review Grosse Point Blank. So, this is a hitman assassin high school reunion movie. Very odd, I know. But, so we go into this story and we have Martin, who is to go on to make these hits on certain people, and it comes to find out that his assistant is to tell him about this high school reunion that he is to possibly have. Martin is to go on and realize that, I guess, I should go on to do this high school reunion because it kind of becomes convenient for him to do so because he's to also have a hit planned within Detroit, the same state of which that is to be his high school reunion. So Martin is to go on and he is to contemplate going to this high school reunion or just doing this hit. And he has this therapist that is to go on and want nothing to do with Martin. And he is to just be so uneased with Martin being there because it's like, well, hey, once you told me what your job was, I wanted nothing to do with you. And so you just keep coming in here and keep doing these appointments, and I still want nothing to do with you. So Martin goes on to eventually on his own decide to go to this high school reunion, as well as deciding to also re-meet up with some old friends and some old flames. Once going on and doing that, Martin is to realize that he's like, well, maybe that I've gone back to all of these people and met all these people, maybe I should just decide to go on to a career change. Maybe I'm done killing people. Maybe I'm done being an assassin for hire, a professional killer. So it's a very interesting story. I thoroughly enjoyed it. You can conveniently watch this movie on Tubi, TBI. Let me know in the comments below how you felt about this movie, where you liked it, where you enjoyed it, where you were just kind of like, meh, like this movie doesn't hold up or something like that. Maybe it's been a while. Really for me, it's just a fun hitman movie that has Dan Aykroyd as a villain in this story. Well, a technical villain. That is to try to unionize all the hitmen, all the professional killers, and he is to try to have Martin come in and try to go on and be a part of this. And Martin just is like, I have no real interest. So we go on to this story, and it's just a fun piece. So speaking of piece, I think it's about time to go into the piece where it is to really just be spoilers. Let's go into that double 5-time bad boy. Great film. I thoroughly enjoyed this possible hidden gem of sorts, maybe, I don't know. But with that said, I think it's about time to just go into spoiler time. Spoiler time, it's about the time we get to spoil this movie. So, in the very beginning of this piece, we of course have Martin, who is trying to go on and shoot this bicyclist. He is to go on and try to murder this bicyclist, and we have, after he goes on and does this, we of course have Grosse, who comes in and shoots everybody that is surrounding the bicyclist afterwards. And so Martin is to go on and speak with Barcella, and so Barcella is to mention that there is to be this Pointe high school reunion, and Marcella really wants Martin to go. Simply because it's interesting that Martin is to have some kind of backstory, or is to possibly have something before she met him that is to be a legitimate thing. So Marcella is to read out this whole entire thing about this whole high school reunion and how in depth it is. So Martin is to go on and is to just and haw about it. And so we of course have Martin, who is to meet up with Grosse, and we have Grosse, who is talking about this union that he has kind of collected a number of guys already, and that he really wants Martin to be a part of that. And Martin's like, I don't know, I don't think so. because Martin just likes to be a freelancer and go on and do his own thing. So, and plus, Martin is almost thinking about getting out of the business anyways. So, Martin is to go on and perform this hit that is supposed to look like a heart attack. And Martin, and this moment just kind of feels like the movie Mechanic, where Jason Statham is to go on and have to kill a number of people to make them look like accidents until eventually things are to catch up on him, and he is to have to kill a number of people just by gunning them down towards the further end of the movie. Like the first movie, The Mechanic, is the only real good one. Like the sequel one is garbage. It's just like, man, that was such like a cheaply done film where all you see the whole entire time is just Jason Statham and Jessica Alba on this beach together. Like, I decided to go on and buy the sequel movie, and what a regret that was. I like fast forwarded through the movie to just see if this movie was to like catch up at all, and it never did. But anyways, so Martin goes on, and he is not interested in working with Grosse in his union, and so Martin is to go on and kill this man and make it look like a heart attack, but the guy ends up waking up while Martin is to try to do this, and so Martin has to go on to find where this guy lives, shoot him, and say it's like, hey, it's nothing personal. So Marcella is to have gotten the grievance from the people that Martin has worked with, because they're like, well, hey, like this should have looked like a heart attack. And Martin's like, well, yeah, but I made a mistake. And so Marcella is like, well, like it seems like these like mistakes are like consistently happening, because we had at one point before where Martin is to have this story about a dog he is to have accidentally killed. And so like I guess whoever was to have hired him was to have frowned upon that there was a dog that died. And Martin's like, well, like it was a mistake, it was an unplanned thing, and it just happened. But still, like the whoever it was were just like, oh, like you shot a dog. So there's nothing he could do, and he explains that eventually to Grosse later on in the film. So Martin is to go on and find out that the gods have worked in Martin's favor, because it seems that there is a hit that is also to be in Detroit, conveniently where Martin is to also go for this high school reunion. And so it's like, hey, you should probably go. So Martin is to go on and decide, like, you know what, like I think I might go on and go. So Martin, of course, is to be talking to his therapist and mentioning, like, well, like, what should I really say to any number of these people? Like, hey, should I go on and tell them that, like, I'm hired to kill people for a living? Like, what should I go on and, like, how should I tell them, like, I've been gone for so long? And Dr. Oatman's like, I don't care what you tell them. Like, you just keep coming in here and doing all these sessions, and, like, I want nothing to do with you, because Dr. Oakman is to really just like not want Martin as a client anymore, after Martin is to divulge to Dr. Oakman that he is a hitman. Because Dr. Oakman is to say, it's like, well, yeah, I have to go on, and if you are to tell me that you're to do a crime in the future or anything like that, I have to alert the authorities and stuff like that. And Martin's like, yeah, but you won't do that. And Dr. Oman's like, well, what if I do? And so Dr. Oman is to kind of do these, or Martin is to go on and try to do these jokes about possibly killing Dr. Oman. And Dr. Oman's like, no, I don't like that at all. Like, you're putting me like, you're giving me anxiety, and I don't like that. So Martin is like, I'm joking, trying to convince this guy that he's not going to be killed by Martin here. So we go on and we have Martin, who's decided to go to this high school reunion. And so he decides to go on and meet up with his old flame, who is Debbie, who is to go on and be a disc jockey at this radio station. And so when he comes into town, all of a sudden he starts hearing Debbie, and Debbie is to go on and do this whole rant about where all the good men dead, and in the heart or in the head and stuff like that. It's just kind of a very old, like certain kind of line delivered from somewhere, probably some movie somewhere. I don't remember exactly where it is. Also, kind of funny. There's this ultimate mart where uh, where Martin is to go to at one point, and there's in the back of the Ultimate Mart, there's the this like cardboard cutout of Pulp Fiction in the background. I thought that was kind of funny. Maybe that was the whole reasoning to go on and do this movie was like because of Pulp Fiction, and maybe there's a reason why there's a cutout in the background, or maybe it was just conveniently that time of year when Pulp Fiction was a thing. So going on. So Martin is to meet up with Debbie, and Debbie is to confront Martin right live onto this radio station, and be distraught that this guy had disappeared 10 years ago when he was supposed to take her to prom. And what does this guy have to say about this? So Martin is to go on and explain to Debbie how he was to go on and like leave for the military, work for the government. And so we have it where Debbie is like, well, hey, like, come on, callers, like, call in and tell me your thoughts about this whole like, should I go on and should I let him like come back in my life? And so we have a number of callers that are just like, no, like. If anything, don't give him a second chance. If anything, like you should make him wear that $700 dress, and so on and so forth. So Debbie goes on and is to hear some of the callers, and we even have two men that are to be following Martin, who are actually to call in as a joke also. So Stephen and Kenneth are to be these two men that are to be these government officials that I guess Grossman was to go on and call after hearing that Martin was to take this Detroit contract that Grossman was to have tried to text or try to computer message somebody saying like, oh well, like, hey, like we're doing that job, and then come to find out Grossman is to do that job, or blank is to do that job. My bad. So Grossman, who is just upset, is to send both these men out to try and kill or try to arrest Martin. So we go on, and so Martin is to have not only these two guys after him, but he's also to have a guy named Felix after him also. And we then have at some point Martin calling Marcello to go on and ask her. It's like, well, hey, like, who are all these men that are following me? Eventually, Marcello is to go on and realize that Martin at some point wants to retire from all of this, and she, in the later part of the movie, is just burning everything and gaslighting everything. And so Martin is to call her before Marcella is to leave, saying that, like, well, hey, like, before you go on, you leave, like, I left you a secret stash of money just to kind of make up for, like, Martin quitting. So, like, it's just kind of like her severance, basically. So, and I'm covering that now so I don't have to cover it later. So, Martin is to go on and consistently realize he's being followed, and we even have at one point, so Martin is to go on to discover that his home is to now be an Ultimate Mart. It's some convenience store. Martin is to go to this place and ask the clerk. It's like, well, hey, how long have you been here? And he's like, well, I've been working here for months. Like, do you have a superior? Do you have a manager? And he's like, well, at home. So Martin goes on and realizes that he's like, oh my god, like my house is now a convenience store. And so Martin is to go on and call his therapist and ask him like what he like feels about this. And Martin is like, well, hey, like I'm just standing in the room where, or in the place where my living room was. it's now a convenience store, and Dr. Oatman is just consistently not wanting to answer the phone call or do anything. Or at some points, like Dr. Martin is just kind of telling Martin to like kind of do these exercises where he's like, well, hey, like convince yourself that you're breathing and just do that for 20 minutes. And so towards the end of the movie, Martin is to go on and call Dr. Oatman and is to fire him for doing just a crappy job because he just doesn't care anymore. And it's like, well, yeah, like he didn't want to help this guy anyway, so he just wanted to get rid of him. So Martin goes on and is to try to convince Debbie to go to this reunion because he just didn't want to go to it alone. And so when Martin is to come out of this convenience store, all of a sudden he is to be met with a guy named Paul because Martin is to just start bumping into old friends of his. So Paul, we find out, is a realtor, and so he's like, well, hey man, like I'm gonna go on and show this family this house. It just feels like they're still unsure about this. So how about like you go on and you come with me and just see if I can finally sell this house. So it seems that Martin is going on and just kind of going into this house, and we all of a sudden have uh, a officer come in and be like, hey, like are you blank? And it's like, yeah. So they go on and we have both Martin and this security guard who are kind of talking about shop and like asking if anybody was to go on and stumble upon this yard, if he would have to use lethal force. And the guy's like, well, like I would go on and probably have to do anything to try to get rid of somebody. And so he's like, oh, okay, that's really interesting. So it seems that Paul is to immediately think that this officer showing up was to possibly ruin his sale. And we have this officer who's just like, no, 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 no. Like, I was just kind of like conveniently just like by here and whatever. So we go on into this story, and we also had it where Martin was to go on and meet an old teacher of his while he was to go on and just like show up at this high school and meet up with Miss K and just kind of talk about how like Miss K was thinking that Martin, uh, they were all kind of questioning what he was going to end up doing after high school. Was it going to be uh, like Harvard, Yale? Like, what was he going to end up doing? And so we had Martin who's like, well, none of the above. So, and also you would have thought like Martin wouldn't have been able to do much of anything considering like he even graduate? Maybe he had easily enough credits. Maybe he um, was to have been a guy to have easily been able to graduate early. Because I think a lot of times, especially in your senior year, you're just going on and just kind of doing whatever kind of stuff to just kind of get these half credits just enough to graduate. And so, like, a lot of your senior year is just kind of like, come on, like, let's go on and just kind of like, let's hurry this up. Let's hurry up my senior year because it's just like finishing up certain like last bits of certain kind of classes. It just feels a lot thinner in the senior year compared to any other year. I know for me, like my last senior year was just like me going on and having to just like come up with just whatever classes to just get half credits to just graduate. Because every year I had a certain plan of what I was doing, but then on my senior year I planned it like I drastically changed what I was gonna do for that year, and so that's where all of everything just effed up. To where like they were still like expecting me to want to do a certain kind of set of thing. And I'm like, no, so I went on and I just started to do this like rush job to like get all these classes like the day before like a quarter would end. And so it it was chaos, it was anarchy. And so I was just like, you know what, like if I can just squeak by with just enough credits to just graduate, I just don't care. Just have me do whatever classes to just get me by for this year. It's just like a lot of it was just all electives anyways. There was like not much for them to go on and have me do as far as like certain courses for that year. So it was just kind of a rush job to just get everything done. So anyways, Martin. Martin is to go on and eventually convince Debbie to go to this high school reunion because he's to show up at her place, and she is to have Martin go on and have this like airplane or helicopter game uh, to kind of have his legs lift her up. And so Debbie is just kind of playing around with this like helicopter weird goofy game. And then she's like, you know what? Like, you've had me convinced. Like, I'll go with you to this high school reunion because it seems that Debbie wasn't really interested in going, but it seems that somehow Martin was to go on and convince her. Because as soon as Martin and Debbie were to meet one another, they kissed. And so Debbie was just like, well, maybe there's still some kind of something there. So the more and more Martin is to see Debbie and whatever, at some points they just continue to kiss and they, I guess, just kind of pick up where they left off. So we go on and we have Martin who at some point is to go on a like a date before this high school reunion with Debbie to just kind of talk more and more about things. And while they go on to do that, it seems that they're also meeting some high school reunion people. They're meeting a girl named Amy, and just like, oh my god, like you guys, like it's been forever. And so while Martin is to go to the bathroom, realize that both Stephen and Kenneth are back there, and Martin is telling them, it's like, well, hey, like, I'm gonna go on after I leave this place. I'm gonna go back to my house, like, meet you there. Or he's gonna go to his hotel. It's like, meet you there, because he knows that these guys are gonna follow him. So all of a sudden, Grosse is to pop out of the John and talk to these guys. And so Steven is to mention to Grosse that it's like, hey, he's coming back. Grosse goes into the John, and he's sort of like, hey man, like I don't like being hosed. So but Grosse is to just try to like get an update of like, well, hey, why haven't you gotten to him yet? And it's like, well, because he hasn't done his assignment yet. So we go on, let me pause here for a second. So we go on here and we have Martin, who is to go on with Debbie to this high school reunion. And so both of them are to go off here, and they are to have, of course, one woman give them like their little cards, because I guess people need to be remembered who any number of these people were by having their old high school picture. And it's like, yeah, the torture of that, just so we go on, and so Martin is to have his high school reunion, as well as at one point before, when Martin is to be at this Ultimate Mart, he is to have a guy named Felix trying to use these guns and shoot him. Now we go on and have Felix, who is showing up at this high school reunion, trying to ruin Martin's good time here. So Martin is to go on, and there were like, let's get into that whole convenience thing a little bit more. The convenience store. So Martin was to go on and shoot through this whole convenience store, and there was a bomb being placed in the microwave, and so Martin has to grab the store clerk that was in there and like kind of run out of there. And so the convenience store clerk was like, "Yeah, no, I'm not gonna have a job, and I'm hurt, and I'm ticked, and I'm this." And so he's like, "No, I'm out of a job." It's like Well, you're alive, right? So, so Martin goes on into this high school reunion, and so at first he's with Debbie, and then he bumps into Paul. Uh, Martin at some point to lock lips with Debbie in this high school reunion, and he goes in the nurse's office, and eventually that visit bumps him into a guy named Bob, and it seems that Martin and Bob are to possibly have some beef from I don't know how long ago, and so Martin is just kind of really confused because he's like, how is it that you and I have any kind of beef from years ago? And so Bob is to all of a sudden change his tune from wanting to beat up Martin to then just try to talk to him. And he talks to him through a poem. And Bob is just like, well, could you like rush through this? So Bob goes on and leaves. And so Debbie is just kind of I guess he didn't go on and easily just fight this guy. So at some point, we even have Martin, who is to be in the arms of a child, a baby, via this high school reunion, as he is to meet up with a old friend of his. I believe her name is Tracy, and he's holding the baby, and then all of a sudden, Debbie is holding this baby, and Martin is to be like clicking this picture. So Martin is to want to go on and is to find his old locker. And once he finds his old locker, he ends up also finally finding Felix. So Felix and Martin get into a fight, which leads to Martin finding a pen and jabbing it into this guy's neck, which leads, of course, to Felix's death. So Debbie is to find Martin killing this man, and so Debbie runs off. Martin's trying to run off after her, but there's nothing that he can say here. So Martin is to find Paul, and so both Martin and Paul are to go on and wrap this body up and dump it into the furnace, and then they go right back to the reunion as Martin is asking anybody if anyone was to see Debbie. So Martin is to go on and leave, and at some point Debbie is to re-meet up with Martin and say it's like, well, that guy was trying to kill you, right? And Martin's like, well, yeah, like, because I told you before. And she's like, yeah, well, I understand that now. So we go on and we have Debbie, who is just no longer wanting to really be interested in Martin because he's technically in a hitman or assassin. So Debbie just kind of goes off, and Martin decides to go on and figure out what this hit is. So he goes on and opens this envelope, and he realizes that the hit is actually on Debbie's father. Come to find out, Debbie's father is to go on and be this informant, and so it seems that somebody wants him dead. So we have Grosse and a number of men wanting to chop off, of course, Bart Newberry. And Martin, before the whole reunion, was to meet up with Bart, and like they were to kind of like shoot the breeze. And it seems that Bart was to really enjoy the conversation he had with Martin. And so like they were just kind of uh like talking about things, and Martin was to mention that he was a hitman, that he was a professional killer, and Bart is like, oh, that seems like a growing field, like, hey, that's that seems like the right business to be in, I guess, as it was all a joke. So we have Martin that is to drive up to find Bart to protect him, and of course tell Bart that he is to be in love with his daughter. And so Grosse is to now repeat what Martin is to repeat to Bart, that Martin is to mention that he is to love Bart's daughter, and he has a new lease on life. And of course, Grosser is to think like, oh, well, he must have gone on and and loved his daughter or had a new lease on life. And it's like it's the whole like Grand Theft Auto thing from the other guys, where it's like, hey, how is it that you can drive so well? Well, I play a lot of Grand Theft Auto, and then we have the guy like behind him who's like, this guy plays a lot of Grand Theft Auto. Why does like driving like a madman have anything to do with Grand Theft Auto? I have no clue, but that's the part of the story. So we have Martin that takes Debbie and her father into this house, this mansion, to try to keep them safe. And so Martin and Debbie are going to this bathroom on the high part of this house. And so we have Martin that's to tell Debbie that he loves her and that he wants her hand in marriage and all this stuff. And while all this is going on, like bullets are flying and like Martin's probably gonna die. So like it's very awkward where Martin is to come back in here and tell Debbie, it's like, well, like Debbie, I think that I want to marry you. So we have like Bart who's like, well, he's got my blessing because he tried to protect me from being killed. So we have Martin that goes on and is to kill a number of assassins that are throughout this house, leaving it to where it's just Martin and Grosser who are just really left here because they are to kind of kill everyone else, even Stephen and Kenneth, who just open this door, and both Martin and Grosser are to toss bullets right into them. So we have a moment where Martin and Grosser are just kind of shooting one another bizarrely in like through this one kitchen slash dining room. And so at one point we go on, we have Martin who's to run out of bullets. And so Grosser is like, well, hey, like I'd be willing to lend you a gun for 10 grand. And he's like, oh, so you'll loan that to me? He's like, sure, yeah, I'll do that. So we weirdly have Grosser through this movie at some points is to have these kind of like weird things that he says at some point where he's like, oh, popcorn, and like gets like a TV tossed onto his brain or his head and he gets killed, just like Stu from the end of the Scream movie. So like Dan Aykroyd, like some of the stuff that he just goes on and says at this point. We also, the one thing that I forgot about, we had both Grosser and Martin who would have this dinner together, and so Martin is to find out that Grosser was to send those two guys after him, and like both of them are kind of having this like brown bag or this napkin, like where they're trying to like both have these guns out while they're eating, and so they order this food, and then Martin never eats it. He just kind of like shoves the waiter and a waitress, and then he like tries to run off. So they never get to their meal. So Grosser is to be taken out with this TV, and so Martin is to go on and just tell like, hey, everything's okay, all is well. And so we just transition bizarrely to see both Martin and see both Debbie, who are driving off into the sunset, and that's how the movie just ends. We have to naturally assume that probably Bart is in witness protection, and that Martin is going to be protecting Debbie from any possible person wanting to go on and steal Debbie to get to Bart. So there's probably that. So and everyone retires after that. So that's kind of the ending of this film. A little bit quicker than I thought it would be to have covered all this because I thought it would take me a while. But with that said, I'm going to get out of here. Bye, buddy. Bye, buddy.